Clock on the dot. So I think let us start. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I see we are 73 in the meeting, which is okay. The meeting is recorded for those who cannot attend. So I hope that you will enjoy today. Let us start with a quick Menti to recap what we have done last week. So last week, we looked at, and let me just go forward a little bit on my slide, the interpretation of legislation. And we have the same outcomes last week, this week, next week. We are scaffolding them so that we start with the less complex or the simpler task and then scaffolding until we get to building a legal argument for a complex scenario. We looked at where to find the acts. We looked at the structure of an act. And today we are going to do a quick 7-question quiz. You have only 10 seconds per question, where we are going to see what you can remember from last week. The structure of the act, how to use specific elements of the act to help us interpret the act, and also our referencing when we reference the title, the number and the date, as well as the section numbers of an act. So please join the Menti by scanning the QR code on screen, or if that does not work for you, go to your browser, type in menti.com, and then use the join code 14873548. Let's see, I have 28 players ready. I need 80 people. I'll just give it a minute. $36, $37, $38. At least the numbers are climbing. That's good. Okay, we have 42 players ready. I think we can start. I don't know if the others are going to join us. Now it's 41.
Happy, kunjani, Saphine. Ngifuna
Hello.
izithombe sisi, hayi amagama.
I don't know who she's talking to, but I don't think it's me. Okay, let us start with the first question. So you have to be quick. There are 7 questions. We're doing 10 seconds per question. Okay, at least now I see we are 50, which looks positive, 51. And I'm going to start. The others can join in as they come in with the other questions. Okay, start the quiz. The long title of the act helps you to do what? Is it to know the meaning of the words? Is it to know when the act was published? Or is it to know what the act is about? Okay, well done. 36 of you have it correct. It is to know what the act is about, because the long title of the act gives us the purpose of the act. Let's see the scoreboard or the leaderboard. I like these names. Dragonite. Okay, let's go to the next question. Ready and go. Commencement date in an act means what? Is it when the act was voted on, when the act was implemented, or when the act was published? Okay, well done. 32 have it correct. It is when the act was implemented or starting to be enforced. Okay, leaderboard. Let's see if it stays the same or not. Dragonite still in the lead, me moving up still. And let's go to question number 3. Ready, here we go. In a reference, the word section refers to what? A paragraph in the act, the number of a chapter, or the number of relevant paragraphs that there are. Ooh. Okay, so section refers to a specific paragraph in the act. When we reference, for example, section 1 or section 5 of the Schools Act, we mean a paragraph that is numbered 5. Section 5 would be a paragraph that has been numbered section 5 or paragraph number 5. And on the leaderboard, we now have different leaders. Okay, there's some competition. So let us now look at question number 4. And ready, steady, go. This time we're asking the question, the clues in the document that help us interpret legislation include what? The preamble, the definition, or the dictionaries? Okay, almost everyone had this correct. Well done, guys. The preamble, yes, it helps us understand the spirit of the document or the act, and the definition, usually in section 1, helps us to understand the meaning of particular words as it is used in the act. Dictionaries are not part of the document. They are outside of the document. They are outside sources. Let's look at the leaderboard. Okay, yes, Ambriel still on the top. And now we are looking at question 5. Ready, steady, go. The following is a correct reference. You now have to identify which reference is correct. Is it section 5 of SASSA 84 and 1996? Is it section 6 of the South African Schools Act 1996? Or is it section 7 of the South African Schools Act number 84 of 1996? Let's see if you can know your references. Oopsie. All right, at least 26 of you had that correct. Well done. Why is the first one incorrect? Because it has the word and instead of between the number and the year. The second one is incorrect because it does not have the act number, the 84. And then the third one is correct. It has the section number. It has the South African Schools Act, which is our red block, the title. And then it has the number and the year, which is our orange block. So together we have the first 3 blocks in that reference. Let's check the leaderboard. Someone's mic is open. Let me see if I can find them to mute them. Achilles. Okay, thank you very much for muting. All right, the quiz leaderboard. We now have a new leader. He's the fastest. I cannot say your name. Unfortunately, you gave only numbers. Okay, so well done. Only 2 questions to go. Question 6 and go. This time, again, you need to identify the correct reference for section 4, subsection C, subsection Roman 1. Okay, 24 of you had that one correct. Okay, so why? How do you know that this one is correct? Remember that we have levels in the section. I call them levels. Not everyone calls them levels. I call them levels to make it easier to remember. So the section, the entire paragraph, the main paragraph, the one with a number printed in bold usually and a little heading, that is level 1, the section. Then we have a subsection, which is level 2. Then we have a subsection, which is level 3. So when we reference this section number or this paragraph number, we need to include the paragraph without brackets, the section. Then we put a bracket, the subsection, close bracket. And then a new bracket, the subsection, close bracket. So underneath the green bar, you will see the correct answer would be 4. And then the C in brackets is level 2. The 4 is level 1, the C is level 2, and the Roman 1 also inside its own brackets is level 3. So the first one, 4, and then in brackets C, comma, I, would mean that there's a subsection called C, comma, I, which is not true. The second one is also incorrect because the 4 is in brackets. There shouldn't be any brackets. And then the last one is incorrect because it doesn't use brackets to separate or indicate to us the different levels or which of them are subsections and subsections. Okay, let's look at the leaderboard after this one. Do we still have the same leaders or not? Okay, Dragonite is back up to the top and we still have our little mousey there as the leader. Okay, last question, guys. Last question and go. The second and third subsections of section 8A is correctly referenced as what? And you have to identify the correct reference. Oh, okay. So this one we did not do last week. So for those of you who got it correct, well done. Very good. In this case, we have 8A, which is level 1. Then we have the second and third subsections, and both of them would be level 2. So now we have 2 subsections on the same level, and we need to indicate that they are on the same level in some way. Guys, please mute. You are in the meeting. Thank you. Okay, so let us look at the other options and why they are not correct. So the first one on the gray block says 8A, bracket 2, close bracket, bracket 3, close bracket. If we write it like this would mean that the 2 in brackets is level 2 and the 3 in brackets is level 3. But that's not true because both of them are on the same level. The second one under the bluish gray block, we have 8A, 2 and 3. The 2 and 3 are correct, but the small a is incorrect because the section number has a capital letter A. So if the Act uses a capital letter, we use a capital letter. If the Act uses lowercase, we use lowercase. Okay, and then the last one has 8A, and then it has 2 and 3 inside one set of brackets. If we write it like this would mean that there is a subsection that is called 2 and symbol 3, which is also not true because that subsection does not exist. The correct way would be your section and then indicate the 2 and separate it with and. You can also write the word and a 3. Or you can also put a dash to say 2, 2, 3. Okay, so long as 2 has its own brackets and 3 has its own brackets. Of course, we don't have the Act in front of us. Sometimes a second and a third subsection is not a 2 and a 3. It might also be a B and a C. Okay, nevertheless, let's see who was the winner of this quiz. Okay, well done. Our little mousey without a name is the winner. Well done to you. Congratulations. Okay, so now we are going to continue. So let me just quickly switch my screens here. Allow me just a few seconds. I'm going to move around and share. This one. Okay. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay, I think I'm set. Right. So today we are now adding. So last week we worked only with acts. Today we are adding subordinate legislation. And last week we worked only with the reference to the title, the date and the year, the date and the number, and the section number. So today we are adding some of our or all of our other bricks so that we have the 6 bricks together. We have looked at all of this already. And we started, remember, just to remind you again, when we reference or cite or support our answers to legal questions from the law, we have to include the document title, which we use our red block to remind us of all the different steps or elements. We use the orange block, which is the number and date of the document. And then we use the yellow block, which was our section number. So when we build our answer. So last week we had questions where we needed only these ones. Today we are taking it a step further. We are now going to look at questions where we need to add a little bit more. Before we do that, while we are still with our yellow block, the yellow block is the paragraph number. So it is important to take note of the way we write the subsections, as we have now seen in the quiz as well. So in this case, I'm referring to the Employment of Educators Act 76 of 1998. I'm then referring to section 14, and section 14 has several subsections. If I refer to the first subsection, it would be written like this: 14 bracket 1 close bracket. Then it is section 14 subsection 1. Subsection 1 also has several subsections, and they are numbered with little lowercase letters. If I want to refer to subsection D, I will write it like section 14 bracket 1 for subsection 1, close bracket, a new bracket, a D for subsection D, and close bracket. So there I have section 14, subsection 1, subsection D. Under subsection D, there is also another 2 subsections. So meaning 4 levels. For this one, there's 4 levels. And in that case, they are numbered with a Roman 1 and a Roman 2. I want to cite the first one of them. I will write section 14, bracket 1, close bracket for subsection 1, a new bracket, D, close bracket for subsection D, and a new bracket, Roman I, close bracket for subsection 1, Roman 1. So I would read it as section 14, subsection 1, subsection D, subsection Roman 1. Okay. Also be reminded, when we read and interpret the legislation, we have to keep the families together. We do not separate the parents from the baby. So you would remember we read them together because we can only understand the family as a unit. Also remember that some families have more than one parent. So we are not separating the parents either. If there's a cross-reference in a section, it means there's a different or another parent, and we also have to go and fetch that parent to read that cross-referenced section to understand them together as a family unit because they belong together. We can use the punctuation to give us clues as to how we read the different phrases and little sections and subsections together, which ones of them belong together. So the next step we are now going to do is we have our reference to the document and the paragraph. Now we are going to quote. So when we quote, we can do it in one of two ways. We can either write it down, copy it word for word as it is in the act, or we can paraphrase it. So it's okay to say it in your own words, paraphrase it a little bit, maybe summarize it a little, but be very careful. When we quote or when we choose to paraphrase rather than use a direct quotation, we need to be careful to keep the meaning the same. So don't change the meaning. For example, if I quote Section 14 of the Constitution that says everyone has the right to privacy, which includes the right not to have their possessions seized. That is not the same as if I paraphrase and say, Section 14 says that nobody has the right to seize your possessions. The meaning is different. Some people still have the right to seize your possessions. If you have illegal drugs, the police has the right to seize your illegal drugs. So paraphrasing it and changing the meaning would be incorrect because then it's not true. So you can quote directly or you can paraphrase, but be careful. Do not change the meaning when we paraphrase. The next step is we are going to also add our dark blue block for the interpretation. So we are referencing, quoting, or paraphrasing, and then we are going to interpret. What does this mean? To interpret means that I am now going to explain in my own words and informed by theory or maybe I'm using a dictionary, or maybe I'm using a different academic publication, or maybe I'm using the definitions in Section 1 of the Act. I'm using any of those or a combination of those to explain in my own words and clearly to interpret what is the meaning of the words in the section that I have quoted. So I've quoted the section, everyone has the right to privacy, which includes the right not to have their possessions seized. Now I need to interpret it. I now need to explain what does that mean in normal words. Sometimes the meaning is quite obvious, but at times the meaning might be a little bit more intricate and we need to explain it a little bit more. Also, if a word has been defined, I will be with you just now with your question. If the word has been defined in the definitions, for you would remember last week we said a parent, we had the question, may the grandparent of a learner vote in the SGB election? And then we looked in the Schools Act at the definition of parent. And we saw that parent was defined to also include, for the sake of the Schools Act, also include people who have undertaken to look after the child for the sake and make sure that the child goes to school and they are taking care of the child's schooling. In that case, if the grandparent has undertaken to take care of the child's schooling and the child is living with the grandparent and the grandparent is the one sending the child to school, then in that definition of the Schools Act, that grandparent is parent. So when the Schools Act uses the word parent, it also includes that type of scenario for that grandparent. So that's just also a way you would have to explain the wording, the meaning of the different words, especially keywords used in the Act. Okay, I have a question from Ayanda. Please go ahead. Oh, no, I don't have. Where's the question? There was a question from someone. Now I can't see the hand anymore. If you had a question and I don't see your hand, please just open your mic and you are welcome to ask a question. Okay, if there's not a question, let me go on. Okay, so we have our reference, the paragraph number, the quote, and the interpretation. Let us now answer a question where we are using the 5 steps or the 5 blocks or the 5 bricks. So my question is, may educators be discharged on account of misconduct? So please find the answer to this question in the legislation, then come to the chat of the Teams meeting, or if that's too difficult for you, you can also go to the WhatsApp chat in our distance WhatsApp group. And using your 5 bricks, you are going to give me the title, you are going to give me the number and year, you are going to give me the correct section and subsection, you are going to give me a direct quote, or you can paraphrase, and you are going to give me an explanation starting your sentence with this means that, and then complete the sentence. And all of these together must give me the answer to the question, may educators be discharged on account of misconduct? So yes, please go ahead. I'm giving you about 4 minutes for this question. Find, first of all, looking at the long title of the act, which act will be most relevant to your question. Then you will go through the table of contents of all the different sections, and you will look for sections that see if you can find the keywords. If you are working electronically, you can also press Control F and type in your keywords and see what pops up. Keywords like discharge, or maybe there's a different word used. Sometimes there's synonyms, and misconduct would be your keywords for this question. Oops, sorry. It doesn't want to click the window I want. I'm just going to stop sharing for a bit. I just want to fix my stuff. Okay. Okay. So that's better. Okay. Kaylee, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you. And you?
I'm fine. Sorry, doctor. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
That's my mistake. Just regarding when we answer these types of questions,
Mhm.
would you prefer if we just avoid paraphrasing altogether and answer with a quote? Because the paraphrasing can be interpreted incorrectly most of the times.
I would say that if it's quite straightforward, you can paraphrase, or sometimes it's a very long, wordy section and you need only a specific little phrase to get to the answer of the question. It's fine to like leave out some of it. But if you are scared of making a mistake, I think maybe rather err on the side of putting a direct quote. You can never be wrong with a direct quote. Instead of paraphrasing. But as you become more confident, I think throughout the module, as you become more confident with specifically certain sections, paraphrase them. It could be easier. But there's nothing wrong with just putting the direct quote if that's easier for you. It's a lower mental load, maybe.
I just wanted to know because I understand that it can be regarding the interpretation and how you word it, it can go wrong, like you said earlier with your example.
Yeah. So you need to kind of read very carefully and also have a little bit of your background knowledge. So that would be where your textbook comes in, because the textbook explains the theory and the background knowledge of certain sections that are relevant to us as teachers. So once you start knowing the theory, knowing the little bit of background knowledge, you will become more confident in knowing how to exactly paraphrase while still keeping the meaning the same. So if you are uncertain, it's better to then just quote rather than paraphrase, just to avoid maybe making a mistake.
Okay, thank you, doctor, and I apologize for my earlier mistake.
No problem. I don't have any issues about that.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you for your question. Right, let us see. I have received a couple of answers in the meeting chat. I just want to check if there are any in oh my goodness, there's some issues in the distance chat on WhatsApp about people having issues. Let me just ask, are your issues resolved, just to be sure? Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to just go ahead and show you that I have two possible correct answers here. Okay, so if you cited Section 11 of the Employment of Educators Act, that would be the most or the best one to cite because it's generally applicable. It doesn't make a distinction between forms of misconduct, whereas Section 18 talks about ordinary misconduct and Section 17 talks about serious misconduct, where there's a little bit of a distinction. So Section 11 would cover both of them, whereas Section 18 would cover ordinary misconduct and Section 17 covers serious misconduct. So just be aware of that distinction. But in this case, both of them are correct. So let us look at the two answers. We'll start with the top one. Employment of Educators Act would be my red block. And do take note of the capital letters, E for employment and E for educators and A for act, and then lowercase for R. Then my orange block is, as always, the number and the date of my document. In this case, that is 76 of 1998. Then I have my section number. My paragraph number in this case is Section 18, subsection 3. So I write it 18 bracket 3 close bracket. That is followed by my quote. So in this case, I've quoted, if an educator is found guilty of misconduct, the employer may impose a sanction of a warning, blah, 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 or discharge. I could leave out impose a sanction, or I can just say impose a sanction of discharge. In this case, I chose to just include or summarize. Actually, I paraphrased because I summarized all of the different sanctions that there can be. So there's my what does the law say? And then I'm adding my dark blue block, which is the interpretation. In my interpretation, I say this means that educators may be dismissed or discharged if they are found guilty of misconduct after a proper disciplinary process. Dismissal is one of the possible sanctions. So yes, educators may be discharged on account of misconduct. So that is how I answered with Section 18.3. There are slightly different ways you could have answered it even better than me. You could have added more detail and so on, but this should suffice for being able to answer your question. Okay, Chantal, you have a question. You may please go ahead.
Okay, ma'am, you need to excuse me. I can't find 18.3. Where on earth is that?
Okay, let us quickly, I'm just going to stop sharing and switch my screens to show you.
Well,
in the
otherwise I've got the
act
wrong
itself.
act because I've got 18.1 and 2, and then mine goes to 19.
Are you in the Employment of Educators Act? And let me just
Yeah.
quickly find my share button again.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you that you can ask, because then maybe someone else has the same question and we don't want you to be lost. Okay, so on your screen, can you see the Employment of Educators Act?
Yes, I'm on page 16.
Okay, so then scrolling down, you are in section 18. Let me just go there. 10. Ooh, oh, no. Okay, 17, almost there. This is section 18. Okay. I can make it a little bit larger for you. Okay, section 18, there's subsection 1, and it has subsections starting at A and going on and on and on and on. There's a lot of forms of misconduct, and it ends at FF. Then there is subsection 2, if it is alleged that an educator has committed misconduct, blah, blah, blah. Can you see that one?
Just wanna-
You have it in your copy.
Hold on a moment for me. I don't have the wrong document then. That's why it's not making sense.
Is it? Okay. If you want me to double check, you can WhatsApp me with DM your document and I can double check for you. Because
Okay,
from
that's
here,
fine.
okay, from here after subsection 2, we will scroll down and then we will find subsection 3, which reads, if after following the procedures contemplated in subsection 2, a finding is made that the educator committed misconduct, the employer may, in accordance with
Counsel,
disciplinary
okay.
code and procedures, then it has counseling, warning, blah, 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 blah. And the very last one is dismissal.
All right.
And that is how I hope.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you are welcome. Okay, and I'm just going to switch my screens again. Okay. And then if I use section 11, it is the same pattern. I have the title of my act, my red block. I have the year and the number, my orange block. For my yellow block, this time I have section 11, and I cited subsection 1, subsection E. Note that the E is in lowercase because the number of the section in the act uses lowercase, not uppercase. Then I have my quote. The employer may, having due regard for the applicable provisions of the Labour Relations Act, discharge an educator from service on account of misconduct. That is my quote. And then I have my interpretation, my dark blue block, where I said this means that educators may be dismissed or discharged if they are found guilty of misconduct after all proper procedures are adhered to as prescribed by the Labour Relations Act. Misconduct is listed as one of the reasons for discharge of educators in section 11. So yes, educators may be discharged on account of misconduct. Okay, I have a question from Tia Duplessis.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
How are
You can
you?
go ahead. I'm good, thank you very much. And you?
I'm good, thank you. Doctor, sorry, I think I also have the wrong document. I see my page numbers are definitely more than yours. My document has 110 pages, so I don't think it's the right one. Is it maybe possible? 49, yes. Is it maybe possible that you can share the document with us?
I have shared them on Ifundi under the resources.
Oh, I
There's a
apologize. I maybe
folder.
missed them.
I just added it yesterday, I think. So you should be able to find them quickly through the announcements, or otherwise just go to resources, and then there's a folder legal documents, and under that I've added the documents.
Okay, thank you so much.
It
Sorry about
could
that,
be-
Doctor.
It could be that you have, if you couldn't find these sections, you probably have an incorrect document. But if you could find these sections and your document is just longer than mine, maybe your document includes regulations or other addenda, or maybe the personnel administrative measures or something like that.
Maybe,
it's
yes, that's possible.
Not necessarily wrong. It depends on whether or not you are able to find this section.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, so then let us move to the next one. Our last step is, oh, sorry, there's another question from Kaylee. You can go ahead.
Sorry, Doctor, I'm
Mhm.
very irritating tonight. I see
No,
you
not
said
at all.
you I've got my question. Okay, I remembered it. You uploaded it yesterday under which resource did you say, Doctor?
In Ifundi on the resources tab,
Yes,
and
Doctor.
then there's a folder, legal documents.
Legal documents. Okay. I see important information. Okay. Tuis comments, belangrike inligting, basic education rights handbook. And okay, that's the Afrikaans one. I don't see a legal. Am I on the right one? Yes, I am.
Let me just quickly double check for you.
Sorry, Kaylee, I also don't see the legal
You don't see
folder.
them. Oh my
Oh,
God.
okay. So it's
No,
not
it's
just me. I
definitely
saw
not there.
It's not
I
there.
don't see it.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to upload it for you, but let us continue, as I'm going to give you another question, and then I will upload as you are busy with the question.
Thank you,
Of course, you
Doctor.
can also find the document on safli.org. Okay, so now the final step, we are adding the green block, and this is the application. After we have referenced, we have quoted, we have interpreted, sometimes we need to give an application to a specific scenario or to some kind of specificity in a question or in a situation, in which case we are now going to indicate what are the implications of what we have quoted and interpreted. What are the implications for practice? So maybe someone will ask you a question like the one we just had, may the educator be dismissed? And then they would ask you, can you give me an example of when? That would be an application. Now you have to give an example. How does this now apply in practice? Or they might give you a specific question, like the one I'm going to give you now, where you need to apply to a specific scenario given to you. Goodness. Okay, so you are now going to use all of the 6 bricks for the next question. An educator is found guilty of working while under the influence of alcohol. May the educator be discharged? So you can see that you can use some of the information you had for the previous question, but now you have to add something to bring us to the application, to the specific situation of alcohol. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to answer that one. While you are grappling with the question, please answer in the chat of the Teams or in the WhatsApp. I'm just quickly going to see if I can pull through the resources to your site. No, definitely it's not there. I don't know why, but let me just try again. Monique, you can go ahead with your question.
Hi, Doctor. So
Hi.
I was just thinking about it now. How is the
Mhm.
exams going to work? Are we going to get the documents or how is it going to work?
No, you are not getting the documents. We are examining you on the core knowledge you need about education law, whereas the skills of doing legal research, we are assessing those skills in the participation mark. So getting a document which you are not given, finding it online, doing some research, doing the reading, citing it properly, using the correct reference, those things we will give marks for in assessment A, B, C, and D.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
In
ma'am.
the exam, we will just ask questions based on the knowledge of the theory, maybe the content of specific provisions, and how you can apply them in practice. So there we will typically give you a little bit of shorter answers, maybe ask some definitions and so on, and then obviously also some scenarios to see if you can apply what you know, what you have learned to scenarios in education.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, I see there's already a couple of answers. So as I go through them, let me just remind you that you must include, because in your normal, or not normal, sorry, ignore the word. In your other disciplines, you would typically have to support your claim. If you make a statement, you make a claim, you are saying something is true. In this case, you are saying, yes, the teacher may be discharged. You are saying something is true. You have to motivate it. You have to support it. You give evidence to support your claim. Whereas in other modules, you mostly rely on academic sources. In this module, in education law, we rely on legal sources because we are making legal claims, we are answering legal questions, we are using legal arguments, which means we need to support our claims by giving evidence from the law. So don't just say, yes, the teacher may be discharged because this is wrong, or whatever the way you phrase it. You must include the title of an act with the number and year. You must refer to a specific paragraph, a section number or subsections where relevant. You must include your quote and your interpretation, and then you do the application. So just saying, yes, the educator can be discharged is just answering the question as an application, but you are leaving out the other steps. So you must include, and that's why we use the bricks. The bricks help you. When you write your answer, use the bricks. You will say red, then you write the title of your document. Then you will say orange, and then you would write the year and the number. Then you would say yellow, then you would write the section number. Then you would say light blue, then you would quote. Then you would say dark blue, then you would write the interpretation. Then you would say green, and then you would write your application. Do this when you answer any legal question. Follow this pattern to answer any legal question, making sure that you have the reference, the quote, the interpretation, and the application all together in your answer. Don't just give an answer without referencing the act, and don't just mention the act and the section number without actually writing words that will answer the question. So your answer can look something like this. Obviously, there's multiple ways of phrasing things. Yours might differ a little bit from mine, so long as the idea is there. So in terms of the Employment of Educators Act, my red block, 76 of 1998, my orange, Section 18, 1P, so that's Section 18, subsection 1, subsection P. And then I have my quote, my light blue block. An educator commits misconduct if he or she, while on duty, is under the influence of an intoxicating, illegal, unauthorized, or stupefying substance, including alcohol. Now I'm giving my interpretation next. That is my dark blue block. This means that it is regarded as misconduct if an educator is under the influence of alcohol while performing their duty. whether on school grounds or not, and whether during school hours or not. So I am explaining the meaning of the words. If it wasn't alcohol, let's say it was marijuana, then you would have a different explanation. You would say this is an intoxicating substance. So in this case, the word alcohol is already there, so it's a little bit easier. It's important to note that in your quote, it says, while on duty. What does it mean to be on duty? It means you are performing duties, whether on the school grounds or not, or whether during school hours or not, does not matter. So it's misconduct if you are on the school grounds. It's also not only misconduct. Oh, sorry, just give me a moment. Sorry. I don't know what's happening with the dogs. Okay, but luckily I have a daughter to sort it out for me. Okay, where were I? Where was I? So this means that misconduct while on duty is the key word, and you have to kind of interpret the while on duty part of that. So then this already establishes or gives evidence that, sorry, just a moment. Okay, my other children are home and that's why the dog was excited. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so answering, I have now indicated or given evidence that being under influence of alcohol while on duty is misconduct. I have not yet spoken to the dismissal part. So now I'm going to repeat the process because I have to add more evidence to bring them together. I'm staying in the same document. I'm still in the Employment of Educators Act. So therefore, I'm not repeating my red and my orange block, but I have a different section, different paragraph number. So now I'm saying, furthermore, Section 18, subsection 3 provides that, my light blue, if an educator is found guilty of misconduct, the employer may impose a sanction, blah, blah, blah. And this is the same one we had before when we didn't do the application. Again, I have my interpretation. This means that educators may be dismissed, blah, 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 same as we had before. Now I have to bring both of them together, and I'm doing the application, and I'm saying, therefore, the educator is guilty of misconduct and dismissal is one of the possible sanctions for misconduct in terms of Section 18. So yes, the educator may be discharged on account of said misconduct. Okay. After this, we are now answering a few questions. So our time is almost up. I just quickly want to also show you the subordinate legislation. So I'm going to send you these questions on the WhatsApp for you to do on your own, or they are also on the homework activity on eFundi tests and quizzes. So you can go straight to eFundi tests and quizzes, answer them there, and in the test and quiz, it will give you, after submitting, it will give you feedback. The feedback gives you a model answer for each of the questions, and you can compare that with your own answer to see if your answer is correct or not. I have a question from Via Venter. You can go ahead.
Good evening, Doctor. I hope all is well. I would just like to know,
if you can just come closer to your mic because I cannot hear you. Sorry. Okay, Mr. Venter, you can speak. I hope I will hear clearly.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, on the previous slide, you basically, I don't know how to explain it. So if you say Section 18, subsection P, you put that first, basically, if I can put it that way.
Mm,
All
mm,
right.
mm.
And then you put your section that explains how the educator may be discharged on account of misconduct.
Mhm.
May the two sections in an explanation or the quote kom ons sê maar omgeruil word.
Yeah, yes, you can absolutely mix up or
Mix up,
swap
yeah.
around the order of the elements. So you can start with,
Okay.
you can even start with your application, then go into your quotes and your explanations and your references. Your reference can
Okay.
also be swapped around. You can say act section, or you can say section act. So it remains the same. The important thing is to have all the elements, and of course, writing it so that it makes sense grammatically, has a nice flow. You know, if you would be
Mm.
reading it out loud, it should sound fine. It should make sense if you read it out loud. So yes, you can swap around the different elements so long as all your elements are there.
Okay, so basically, I just all that I did is I put section 11(1) as subsection 1 subsection E first. That explained that a educator could be discharged on account of misconduct, and then explained what the misconduct means, basically,
Yes, that's fine.
with
Yeah,
section
that's
H.
fine. So long as you have your section numbers, your reference to the document, the title and the numbers and years, and then of course your quote and your explanation and the application if necessary.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. I
You are most
appreciate it.
welcome. You are welcome. Chantal, you can go ahead with your question.
No, it's fine, ma'am. I just wanted to, yeah, I don't get these last, the quote interpretation and apply one. So can you maybe just take that slide that was on earlier on? Is there any way that you can highlight in the colors of the block so that we can see which one is the actual quote, which one is the interpretation, and which one is the application?
This one.
Yes.
Let me see if I exit, if I just do it like this. Let me see, Employment of
your-
Educators Act would
so your-
be, I'm just going to change the colors,
Yeah,
red.
those ones are fine. It's just, so your quote is the one
Oh, okay.
in wat noem mens dit? Aanhalingstekens, skies. My Afrikaans is Engels is klaar vir die aand. And
Okay.
then the interpretation is obviously then after that. So you need to
This one is
interpret,
the original, please.
you need to interpret every
Oh.
section. Is that correct?
Well, mostly it depends on whether or not the section is very straightforward or not. Sometimes it's really straightforward, but sometimes it's not. And then it helps to just give an interpretation. Specific words in the law, words have a very specific meaning. So it's good to have your meaning almost translated for the reader. So I would say putting it in your own words so that we can see that one, first of all, I want to see that you understand, you really understand what it's saying. But secondly, also if someone is listening to you, so as a teacher, you might be, you might need to represent yourself, you might need to address parents or colleagues, you might have to convince people of certain actions that need to be taken. You might even be on the governing body and have to motivate for a change in a policy or something like that. Then you have to be able to convince people and interpret the law on a level that your listener would understand what you are saying. So sometimes the meaning is very straightforward in your quote already, and the interpretation doesn't have to be very elaborate. But there are times when a little bit more interpretation is needed. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And then your application always has to have a yes in. Am I right?
No, it depends on the question. It
Well,
would really
a yes
depend
or a
on,
no.
yeah, it could be a yes or a no, but it could also be, is it lawful or not? Or are they can they be held liable? Okay, that's also a yes or a no. It's also late in the evening. I'm struggling to think of examples where it would not be a yes or a no, but there would
But
be.
mostly we
there
could
would
get
be.
to a yes or a no to say that that is correct because all of the above, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes
Okay,
it
that
could be
makes more
something different.
sense.
I can think of an example. For example, if the question can be, name 3 forms of misconduct, for example, that would be a different approach. Or which rights of the teacher or of the learner were violated in this situation. So that would also be not a yes or a no approach. It would be a number 1, number 2, number 3 approach. But you will
Okay, so
follow
there's a
the same
listing or
pattern.
okay. All
Yeah,
right,
the
that
same
makes sense.
element will be there. Yes. Okay, so I just want to quickly go then before we end off the session to other documents. So, okay, just let me just go one back. So most of our subordinate legislation, the regulations, norms and standards, national policy, guidelines, those are published also in government gazettes, just like the acts, but they don't have an act because they are not original. They're not acts, so we don't cite them as act so and so of year so and so. So we still have a title, the red block. We still have a number and date, but now our orange block will look a little bit different. So you will see at the bottom of the screen currently I have, I've cited Regulation 8A of the regulations for safety measures at public schools, and then government notice 1040 in Government Gazette 22754 of 12 October 2001. If I'm citing regulations, I can use the word regulation, I can say item, I can say paragraph, I can say section. It doesn't really make a difference. I just want to stop sharing my screen or switch my screens to show you what this will look like. Hang on. No, I don't want that one. I want this one, and I want, oh my goodness, safety regulations. Okay, so here, can you see this? Yeah, you can see. Okay, so the regulations for safety measures at public schools, that is my title. And then that's the red block. My orange block looks a little bit different now because I'm now in subordinate legislation. So I'm going to cite the government notice. You can just say GN with the number, the government gazette, GG with the number and the date. And that would be your orange block in the case of subordinate legislation. So if I get back to, let me just switch my screens again. So then I have a couple of documents, examples for you, which you can go and find the document and look at my reference and go to the document and see if you can locate this. See if you can find paragraph 4 in the guidelines for the consideration of governing bodies in adopting the code of conduct for learners. See that you can see the notice number, the government gazette number, and the date. The same for children regulations, the same for the personnel administrative measures, all of them in the government gazette, published in the government gazette. With the SAIS Code of Ethics, it's a little bit different. We don't do that the same. SAIS issued the Code of Ethics. There's only one. And it is updated from time to time and published on the SAIS website. So for the SAIS Code of Professional Ethics, if you just say SAIS Code of Professional Ethics for teachers or for educators, it will be fine because we would then know what document we are referring to. The last one on the screen is not subordinate legislation, but it is a different way of referencing. So that's why I included it. In the Employment of Educators Act, most acts or many acts have addenda or attachments at the bottom of it. Sometimes they are called addendum, sometimes they are called schedule. In the case of the Employment of Educators Act, which you are going to use a lot when you get to, I think, study unit 3 or 4, Schedule 2 is the disciplinary code. So it has a name, Schedule 2. So in that case, if we cite a section from that attachment or addendum, we would say section so-and-so of Schedule 2 of the Employment of Educators Act 79 of 1996. So it's a little bit a different way of citing because it's not in the act, in the original sections of the act itself. It comes from a different part of the act, which was like attached, or it's an addendum to the act, which is called in this case Schedule 2. So I will send you on the WhatsApp these 3 questions, which I want you to go and do on your own. So the answers to these questions, I want you to use the 6 bricks, and these questions you are going to answer them by referring to subordinate legislation and not original legislation. So I'm going to send them to you. Please bring the answers to these 3 questions with you to class next time. And the previous slide with 4 questions, those questions you can already go and do on the test and quizzes homework activity, in which when you submit it, it will give you feedback. When you click on feedback, it will show you the correct or a model answer. If you had a different answer and you don't understand why I give a particular answer, please send me a message, because sometimes you might have a different answer which I didn't think of, and your answer might also be correct. Okay, next week then we are going to look at the answers for these questions, and then we will use our 6 bricks referencing and build arguments, legal arguments, to address more complex situations. Okay, so that concludes the session for today. If you have any pressing questions before we end the session, you can please ask your question. Mamasuli, you can go ahead.
Evening, ma'am. To
Hi.
those of us who joined a bit later due to connection issues and so forth, is it possible, when will you be sharing the PPTX so that we can go through it and have a better understanding?
When will I be sharing the what?
The PPTX, will you be sharing the document on
I'm going to share the slides, the relevant slides on WhatsApp right now. And then, of course, you can come back to the chat and look at the recap. If you want to see what happened before you joined, it will be on the recording.
All right. No, thank you so much, ma'am.
You are welcome. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining me and for your participation, for typing your answers in the chat and in the WhatsApp for those who did it in the WhatsApp. I appreciate you being here and participating, and I hope that this has been useful to you. And I will see you next week, same time. Enjoy your week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.